and it's time for the lock-in. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we're here with the final episode, which is episode 13, I believe, of Jentry Chau versus the Underworld. And it's wild to think that we're finally here at the end. This has been a long time coming. I believe we technically started this at the end of last year, but we have done the majority of it this year. And it's just a crazy journey, a great series that has a lot going for it, a lot of like really amazing moments. It's really well crafted, and whether or not this gets a second season or not is apparently just up in the air with Netflix. That's not surprising, but honestly, if it doesn't, I feel like this is kind of working its way towards having a satisfying ending. I hope it does. Because as long as it feels satisfying and feels closed off, I've said this in previous parts, then I think I'll be happy with that. Rather than have an ending that's super open-ended. Like those are the shows that I feel like leave off at like really bad points and then never get continued, and it sucks, you know? And I don't blame the showrunners for that. I blame Netflix for canceling this shit. But still. So, Mooney is back, but has now been taken over by the Mogwai. She ended up being forced to forge a pact with it in order to save, well, in a way to save herself. It's less selfish than it sounds, though. Because the Mogwai was basically tormenting her with the spirit of her husband being tortured over and over again in different ways. And basically told her that he would do this for all eternity. Of course she wouldn't be able to handle that, so of course she made the deal. She really didn't have a choice. I don't blame her for a second. But now, like, Gentry's gonna have to deal with this fight. Gonna have to, like, basically fight her mom. She's going to have to deal with stopping the Mogwai, probably with the help of Michael. I don't know where this is gonna go at this point, because, yeah, she's strong, but she has to be able to separate the Mogwai from her mother while keeping her mother alive. She has to be able to destroy it for good this time, and stop, like, the forces of the Underworld that the Mogwai has tricked into being on its side. That's a lot, and they're locked in. Like, that's the point. They're locked in for the entire night, so they're not going to be able to go anywhere. There's all these other students here who are going to be put in danger. Only some of them are going to be able to fight. Like, the regular students aren't going to be able to do much of anything here. They might try, but they're not really going to be able to do much. The best we can hope for is them, like, just assisting in some way. And, like, being, like, somewhat useful. But the only ones who I actually see, like, really lending a hand are Michael and Stella. With the very vague possibility, and this might sound weird, the very vague possibility of the vice principal. Because the vice principal has been a notable character who was initially very strongly against Gentry, to the point where he's trying to humiliate her and turn the entire town and school against her. But after she saved their hides, he turned his view around. And I'm wondering if he might now, like, end up, like, really working to help, like, side with her here. I could see that being a fair character arc for him. My biggest question is, what are we going to do in terms of deaths in this episode? Because there very much could be a lot of deaths that happen here. Realistically, probably the entire school would end up dead. Like, if we're talking realistic, but I know that's not going to happen because it's like that would be a little too dark. This show gets really dark, but it does kind of teeter on the edge a little bit to where it's like, oh yeah, a lot of this is very like teen friendly. Like 15 and up, you can watch this show. It does get very dark and very intense at some points, but for the most part, it's teen friendly. Kids should not be watching this, which it's wild that Netflix puts it in the kids section because it's animated, I guess, and not like explicitly referred to as an adult series. But it's like, this is not appropriate for kids. It's too dark for kids. But for teenagers, sure. Um, but yeah, it's like, I'm just wondering, like, are we going to get any notable deaths? I'm still thinking Gugu might end up, like, sacrificing herself and dying permanently, like, completely. I'm still thinking that might happen. I don't think Mooney's going to die. I think just having her return and be in Gentry's life for the first time after so long, I don't think they'd kill her after that. I just feel like that would be a little cruel. A little too cruel for this series. Ed is not going to die. Ed, I feel, has some pretty notable plot armor. Michael and Stella are going to survive. The vice principal, I guess he technically could. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think like it would be that big of an impact if he did. But it's possible. And as for the other students, I don't know. The thing is, when you have deaths like this, it almost has to be notable characters. It has to be characters whose deaths would mean something. If you're just killing off people like crazy, it's like you're doing so in this kind of situation for shock value. And this doesn't seem like the kind of series that's just going to kill people off for shock value. This is the kind of series that would actually make a point of who it would actually kill. It would have to mean something. It would have to be important to the story, important to the characters. Like, we've had a couple deaths in the series. We've had, like, Kit and technically Gugu died in the first episode. Two very important characters whose deaths mean something. We saw, even though it happened prior to the events of the main series, we did see the death of Gentry's father. Again, a very important character. So it's like, I feel like if we get any deaths this time, it has to be someone big. And that's why I'm thinking, like, Gugu having, like, a permadeath this time, sacrificing her soul to save Gentry, I think could work. Now, the thing is, we also have to still somehow rescue Gentry's grandmother. Like, we have to, like, snap her out of whatever kind of state she's in, right? I wonder if she's going to come into big play with this, because that's the one plot thread that I still don't know how we're going to resolve here. I don't see how we're going to do that. The only thing I can think of is that she kind of snaps out of it, like, when, like, finding out Mooney is in danger or something, or something like that, or just, like, snaps out of it to save her family, and she ends up becoming instrumental in the battle. And I don't think she's going to die. Like, I don't think there's really much of a reason to kill her off. But I don't know. That's like the one plot thread I'm just really unsure of right now. Everything else I can see how it's going to wrap up. But that one is the one I'm not really confident with. But I guess we're going to find out. So let us just get into this and hope for the best with this finale. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, there's 3 things I want to touch on before anything else. And I would say they're the 3 only real negatives of this ending. The first thing is that I feel the 3 weeks later scene was too short. I feel like they could have added in like a couple extra minutes to give that a little more oomph, to show like how much more she's like moving on with her life and how much things have like changed and progressed. The second thing is that I think it was kind of a mistake not to touch on how the Underworld, how Diu, like was reacting to everything going on, because everything that had happened, it's like I feel like we needed to touch on how Diu like learned that the Mogwai was manipulating them, and how everything was going down was kind of fucked up in the first place. The fact that we didn't like get any follow-up with that kind of sucks. It's not like a big issue, but I kind of wish there was at least something with that. I understand that it would kind of like undermine the focus on Jentry and her growth and everything she's gone through and all, to really showcase that, but I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I kind of wish we would have seen at least a little something with that. And the third thing I want to touch on is I really feel bad for the girl Michael was dating. Because it's like, he and Jentry had broken up. He started dating some other girl who I don't know if she even has a name. But he starts dating her, and then he just gets back together with Jentry. It's like this girl, he basically just has to kick to the curb because he and Jentry just like are back together now. It's like, I feel bad for this girl. It's like, I wouldn't say she was being used by Michael to like get back at the fact that Jentry dumped him and everything. I wouldn't say that at all. I think he was with her, and that makes it kind of worse, because it's like, he's just back together with Jentry. It's like, I hope she's okay. Like, we see Stella has been okay. She's become okay with it all. And we see at the end, there's that little hint of her maybe having something with the friend from Seoul. I can't remember her name right now. The one voiced by Michaela Dietz. There's a little hint of something there. It's this super tiny random hint, but it's like, if they do have a second season, I hope they explore that. One, because I feel like this girl from Seoul could use to be more of a major character. I would love to see her become a bigger character if they do a second season. But also because that's the only queer representation we got in this series. And it sucks because it's so subtle and it's at the very end of the show. Like, there were hints of chemistry between Jentry and Stella, but they never explored it. It was never actually touched on. It was just like they had good chemistry with each other. Like, I've even heard other people say like they could have seen Jentry and Stella becoming a couple. And if this hint is anything to go by, there is somewhat precedence for that, because it kind of hints that Stella might at least be interested in girls. And I'm all for it. I'm all for the representation with that. But it's thrown in at the very end. I wish there was more in the series proper, but I don't know. There could be multiple reasons why they didn't or couldn't. I just wish there was more, you know? But yeah, this is what I wanted from the ending. It's a satisfying, contained ending to where if we don't get any more, we're fine. This is an absolutely satisfying ending. This works on all levels if it were to end here. But there is absolutely room for more, because Jentry still has her powers. While Gugu is gone for good now, Jentry has her mom back. The Underworld stuff wasn't entirely resolved. The stuff with her grandmother wasn't entirely resolved. There is absolutely still room to go. They could absolutely do more. And I would be game for it. But again, if they don't, I'm okay with that because this feels satisfying. I am happy with this conclusion. Um, the action sequences and the battles, I'm surprised like how good they were for how little there was. Like I mentioned, this episode isn't like significantly longer than any other episodes. So it's like they had to kind of wrap everything up because they didn't even start the actual attack until this episode, and not even like directly right away. So they had to do everything in this episode, and sometimes that's hard when you have like a certain limit, a certain runtime, to get like an entire climax of a series done in that time. But they made it work. They made it work, and nothing felt rushed. Nothing felt like it was going by too quickly. I don't think they needed anything more, and I'm really surprised and pleased with that. I think everything was handled as properly as it could have been. Gugu's sacrifice, like sacrificing the scarf that was keeping her alive in order to, like, keep Gentry alive after being stabbed. What it needed to happen. Gugu's self-sacrifice and everything was the only possible way for her to have a satisfying finale to her character arc. She needed to die for good. But Gentry still has the memories. And those memories are like enough for her at this point. She's made peace with it. She still misses her. She's always going to miss her, but she's made peace with it. And I think that's good. Because it's kind of as Gugu was saying, she already died. She already stayed past her time. And the biggest reason she did stay is because basically unfinished business. Gentry needed her. But she doesn't anymore, so it was time for Gugu to leave anyway. It was right. And I've been saying it. The only way for Gugu to have fully redeemed herself is she had to take an action that would show, that would be like basically in complete opposition to how she has acted throughout most of this season. She would have to take an action that would end in her full permanent death. As harsh as it sounds, it's the only way she could redeem herself at that point. So it's like, it's not even from a writing perspective, a character perspective. It's just from a moral perspective. Like, the amount of horrible shit she has done, like, for all of Gentry's life, the amount of manipulation and the amount of mistreatment, like, disguised as love, disguised as protecting her. Like, Gugu had to make it right. And she did. And the way she said it to Mooney and everything, that she was doing this to let Gentry live her own life for once, to let her make her own decisions. She wanted to make sure that Gentry had that autonomy that she had taken away from her for all her life. It was literally the pure opposite of what she had done when she forced the powers into Gentry in the first place. She chose to be selfless for once and made all of her wrongs right. She had already apologized and meant it. She had already done a lot to help bridge that gap that had formed. But now she truly made it right. And again, I still think Gentry forgave her way too easily in the first place. But I get why, because she was the only family Gentry had for pretty much her entire life. So I understand why she would forgive her so easily. Plus, again, she's a teenager. Teenagers, and even a lot of just people in general, tend to not hold on to grudges as easily. Teenagers are very emotional, just because of all the hormones and everything going through them. And so it's like their emotions can change with like the snap of a finger. It's it makes sense for her to forgive Gugu easily, especially when she does emotionally rely on her and has for her entire life. So yeah, it's fully believable. I just think, like, from my perspective, I would not have forgiven her that easily with the shit she had done, and she didn't deserve to be forgiven that easily. But she earned it by the end either way. Um, I'm glad that Gentry killed the Mogwai with such like ferocity at the end. There was no hesitation, and it never painted it as being bad. There are some shows that would try to paint that kind of thing, as being like negative, for you know attacking someone who has tried to kill you throughout your entire life and has been an active threat, an active um like just deterrent to you living a good life. Like, just as much as Gugu, like, the Mogwai was kind of the cause of her life being the way it was. And so her, like, it basically can be seen as representative of her taking out her abuser, her turning against and stopping her abuser from being able to, well, abuse her anymore. It can be seen as representative of that. Obviously, it's a much more intense uh, situation than that, but again, it's more of a representative metaphor in that regard. Um, but I see it very much similarly in the actually to the way I see, like, how with Castlevania yesterday, Maria did the same to her father. It's like it's the same basic thing. But obviously, there's not necessarily the family connection, even though the Mogwai did take over Mooney. But like, realistically, it's different to a degree, but it's still the same kind of like meaning to it, and it needed to happen. Like, they were evil people who needed to die, and Gentry was the only person who was right to do that. It was the only person who would have been right to finish off the Mogwai. Just like Maria was the only one who could finish off her father. There would have been no other truly satisfying result, or I can't speak. Resolution is the word I was trying to think of. There could be no other satisfying resolution to that in either way. It's just kind of wild to me that, like, 2 days in a row we have that kind of thing going on, even though, again, there's notable differences, but the kind of result and idea is the same. I like how the students were able to find a way to help. The vice principal actually didn't help as much as I thought he would. I thought he would actually lend a bigger hand. Um, but I like how the students found a way to help by pushing the demons back into Diu, and then Michael got them all to safety and everything. I think that was like a really good way to integrate that all in. Um, and yeah, I really feel satisfied with how this ended. I really have, like, all the issues I do have are like not like super major ones. They're pretty minor, all things considered. They don't hurt the finale or the series. It's just stuff that I would have wanted a little more with, just a little bit more to express that and discuss it. And if we do get a second season eventually, maybe we'll get that. Maybe we'll get a little more with the Demon Realm reacting to what happened. Maybe we'll get more with the other characters, especially the friend from Seoul, and maybe like a romance with her and Stella. It's like we could go into a lot more if we get a second season. And I know the creators have basically said, it's like, oh, we'd be good for a second season. We just need Netflix to greenlight it. So it's like, yeah, just gotta have enough viewership and stuff and hope that happens. Um, but I very much enjoyed this series. I thought it was a fantastic show. Had so much promise, so much great stuff in it. A lot darker and more intense than I was honestly expecting, which is a good thing for me. That I dig that kind of shit. Um, and I just hope that we continue to get great shows like this, and that these networks stop canceling them. But that leaves us with a question of what's going to replace this. And I've actually been struggling with that question because I had a few ideas. And the thing is, all my ideas are anime because because we're not reacting to much anime at the moment. Like most of our shows that we're reacting to are cartoons, Western cartoons. And so I thought like we should bring in an anime, but then I'm thinking like, but what anime? And that's where I've been struggling. I have like 7 options that I was like trying to think about, and I wasn't sure what to go with. And so I decided we're gonna do a wheel. We haven't done a randomization wheel in a little bit, I think. So let me see if I can bring this up real quick. Oop, I have these tabbed over to the wrong side. Give me a second here. So yeah, we're gonna have a wheel here to randomly decide what's going to take over for Jentry Chau on Thursdays. Nothing else is going to be changing. Like Thursdays is just going to be the one show still. It just works the best for my time, for my scheduling and all. So let's see. Let's bring this up. There we go. Ooh, it's the sizing is a little off here. Hold on, I can fix that. Let me just fix the sizing here. There we go. That's a little better. So yeah, we have 7 options on here. I'll go through them all real quick. These are all first impressions except for one, which is a donation reward. So we have Metallic Rouge, we have Freerin, Buddy Daddies, Zom 100, Zenshu, Heavenly Delusion, and Undead Unluck. Obviously, with both Freerin and Undead Unluck, those will be just, continuing. If we get one of those, because we've already started those, we've already gotten a number of episodes in. Undead Unluck, we only have like a little bit left. Freerun, we're still pretty early in, I believe. But the rest were all first impressions that we've only done one episode to so far. Metallic Rouge, Heavenly Delusion, Zenshu, Zom 100, and Buddy Daddies, we've only done one episode. And so we're just going to leave it up to fate, and we're going to spin this and see what happens. I'm good with any of these, because like I said, I was kind of stuck between choosing which one of these I wanted to do anyway. I do have like a couple on here I think I'd want to get to the most. But I'll save that for after we spin it and see what we actually get. So let us do this. And it looks like we're going with Heavenly Delusion. Okay. That was actually one of the ones I was hoping for, along with Undead Unluck and Zenshu. They're actually right next to each other. I randomized their spots on the wheel, so that was actually just luck. Those were the 3, because Undead Unluck I want to get back to, because we have like so little to get back to. But I really want to check out more of Zenshu. That first episode was so good. But Heavenly Delusion's one that we've been waiting on for a while, and so that's one I wanted to get back to for that reason. And I wanted to get back to all of them, but you know what I mean. How long has it been for Heavenly Delusion? Let me check that real quick, because it's been a while, I think. I don't remember if that was part of a showdown or just a regular. Or just a regular first impression. I think it was a showdown, but I'm not sure. I'm trying to look it up right now. Okay, I'm not finding it just through that. Let me. Oh, do I have? Hold on. Yeah, I have the gaming stuff because I'm going to be streaming. Give me a second. I just want to see how long it's been since I've done this. I can switch to it on my phone. It'll be quicker than trying to do it on my computer anyway. Okay, I just got an anniversary thing for YouTube on here. Apparently, it's been 7 years since I started this channel. But anyway, let me check here. Heavenly Delusion. Okay, it was a first impression showdown. It was the same one that had Dr. Stone in it, actually. It had Dr. Stone, it had a few other things here. I'm trying to remember what all of them are called. Oshi no Ko. I think that's Vinland Saga? Right there? And I can never remember what that last one is called. But yeah, this was back in June of 2023, so it's been like almost 2 years. Golden Kamui, that was the other one. So yeah, Dr. Stone, Golden Kamui, Heavenly Delusion, Vinland Saga, and Oshinoko were the five that I did. That was the second first impression showdown we did too. Um, and so yeah, we're just not getting to this for like almost 2 years now. So it's definitely time we got back to this. I'll probably check out the first episode again, or at least recap myself before next week, in order to remember exactly what happened. I remember the big gist of it. I remember like a good majority of what happened. But I'm probably gonna just to really get it down. See if I can even just find a reaction someone posted to it. I can watch it with their reaction. That'll give me enough info. But yeah, so that is going to start next Thursday. Just taking over for this exact same slot that Jentry Chau was in. And I'm excited to get back to this. Because that first episode really did impress me. That first episode was like surprisingly interesting. It very much like it's one of those episodes, one of those shows that it's just like, oh, this is intriguing as fuck. I want to know more about what's going on here. We'll talk about it more, obviously, next week when we get into the episode 2 reaction. I'll talk more about it in the pre-thoughts. But yeah, that's the plan for now. In the meantime, I definitely want to hear what you all thought of this final episode of Jentry Chau versus the Underworld. Let me know your thoughts down below, what you thought of how it ended, and whether there's a certain couple things that could have been, like, given a little more time for. But either way, let me know your thoughts. And for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.